my January favorites. So this is obviously the first favorites of the year for me. So we're going to kick it off with my first favorites video this year. I usually film all my best in beauty in January, so I don't normally film a December favorites because I kind of find December favorites a little bit redundant because it's like I'm still going to talk about them all in my just in my best in beauty. So like what's the point of filming a December favorites? I know most YouTube channels still do that, but for me, it's like also like best in beauty it takes me like 2 weeks to film sometimes because I do like 6 separate videos for it and it's a lot of different products to cover for an entire year. But I hope you guys had an amazing January. January is kind of a boring month for me. Honestly, I really didn't do too much in January. I started school again, so honestly, I've just been either seeing my boyfriend in my spare time or I work like 1 or 2 days a week, and then the other days I'm just doing schoolwork or going to the one class that I need to go to on campus. My other 2 classes are online. So that's mostly what I've been doing in January. I cannot believe it's already February 1st today. I cannot believe January's over already. We're in 2023 full swing, you guys. It's not really that new anymore. I feel like it's just going to fly by again, but honestly, I feel like time kind of slowed down last year. So let's get into, last month, not last year. Last year flew by. So let's get into the favorites. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm mostly going to be talking about a lot of eyeshadow palettes in this video because I honestly didn't try too many products, like new products in January because I was trying to be on a low buy for the first few weeks of January. That's usually what I do after the holidays, is that I just take a break and like really just try to enjoy my collection that I have. So if you guys like don't really see any new, I'm just checking my makeup, but it looks fine. It just looks like a little bit less light. But it looks fine in person, but it looks like there's like no shadow there, but it is in person. So anyway, I didn't try too many blushes, highlights, or lip products at all until like last week. And I only tried like one in each category because I honestly just want to enjoy my blush and highlighter collection right now. There really aren't any ones that are really screaming my name to get besides the rare beauty ones. Those are the only ones I'm interested in. And besides that, like I want to just enjoy the collection I have because I have a lot of highlighters and blushes. And it's been nice just going back to the ones that are my favorites and just using those throughout the month. And then as far as lip products go, again, like I really just didn't want to add too many lip products to my collection. As you guys know, lip products are like the first thing I declutter. I really have just been trying to get much pickier with my lip purchases lately, so I don't get too many new lipsticks. So honestly, I only added one to my collection, and it's already a favorite because it's a formula that I love already. And then when it comes to eyeshadow palettes, I really just dove into the ones that I either had gotten like around the end of the year, like November, December, and I really just wanted to go back into those again and use them as much as I could in January. So those are the palettes I'm going to be talking about today. So let's jump into the palettes. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the 2 Christmas palettes that I really was loving in December. And the first one is obviously the Oden's Eye Merry Christmas palette. I'm not going to talk about this palette for too long because unfortunately you cannot get this palette anymore along with the other palette. After I saw that they were both not going to be coming back, I did get a little bit of FOMO about the Christmas Eve palette, but honestly, I haven't even touched this palette in January. Honestly, I'm talking about it because it was my favorite Christmas palette in December. I knew I was going to use it heavily in December, and I used it a lot the last 2 weeks of the week before Christmas and the week of Christmas. This was my go-to palette. It's such a stunning palette. One of the best palettes Oden's Eye has ever done, if not my favorite Oden's Eye palette ever, because the shimmers in here are unbelievably gorgeous. These are some of my favorite shimmers in my entire collection. They are just super stunning, and the mattes just work so well. This Elf Wish shade is so ridiculously beautiful, and this Jingle Bell shade is gorgeous. I love this orange shimmer, All Right, and then Little Stars, this stunning like duochrome reddish gold. Just the shades are absolutely stunning in here, and they absolutely killed this release. And but I'm not really that thrilled with their new release because some people are saying that those single shadows were copied by another brand. I was not interested in getting those I mean, I was interested for like 2 seconds and I'm like, I'm never going to touch them. And I was like, I really just don't need to spend the money on them when I already own 5 Odin's Eye palettes. I don't need to add singles to my collection too. I have what I want from the brand. And if there's something that catches my eye later in the year, then I'll pick it up. But this was the last thing that I got from Odin's Eye, and it's just gorgeous. I really hope that I can jump back into it at some point because I do kind of want to use it this month and see if I can incorporate it into a look at least. Because, again, I haven't really touched it since Christmas ended. But this is such a beautiful palette that I really just want to use it maybe once or twice this month. So just wanted to shout that one out. And then the other Christmas palette, of course, that I end up using every year now that I absolutely love, and this became like one of my favorite palettes ever from ColourPop, is the Rudolph palette. I don't think you can get this palette anymore either, but I just wanted to give it, again, a quick shout out because this is a really beautiful palette. This is one of their best palettes formula-wise ever. It's just such an easy Christmas palette to use. I love that you get all these neutral tones in here, so you can do a really simple neutral eye and then pop a red lip on, and you're ready for any holiday party or any type of Christmas occasion that you guys do or celebrate. And the shimmers in here are just ridiculously metallic and gorgeous, and I just really, really love this palette. So I just wanted to mention it. I love the reds and the greens, and the shimmers, again, are just absolutely amazing. And I used this palette, I think, at least 3 times during Christmas. I wanted to make sure that I got into this palette again, so I was basically rotating this one and the Merry Christmas palette from Odin's Eye. And those were honestly the only 2 Christmas palettes I really needed. I don't really have too many Christmas palettes in my collection. I have these 2. And then I have the Pie palette and Chocolate Donut palette from Glamlight, which I did actually go into both of those, but I only used them once. But those were mainly the 2 that I used. Okay, so now let's get into the palettes that I revisited that I'm really happy that I was able to get some use out of in January. And I just wanted to mention them again, especially, yeah, these are the 4 palettes I really concentrated on using again. And I really do love all of these palettes. They're really, really good palettes. Some of my favorites in my collection. So, of course, I have to mention Sigma, but I did go back to this palette a couple of times this month, and that is the Sigma New Mod palette. I finally have used all the shimmers in here more than once, and this is a really beautiful palette, you guys. I really do love and am very, very obsessed with the Sigma eyeshadow formula. I think their formula is wonderful. I think it's very beginner friendly, very easy to work with. The mattes are just so pigmented, but also very easy to blend and very smooth on the eyes. And the shimmers are just so much more beautiful on the eyes. Like, they sparkle so beautifully in the pan, but once you put them on your eyes, they really are gorgeous. And like I said, they kind of remind me of Glamlight's shimmer formula, but I think they're a little even more sparkly than Glamlight's. And I'm just super excited for what Sigma comes out with next. I mean, this is only my 2nd Sigma palette because Nomad was the brand that got me recently again, but also last year I ended up picking up 3 palettes from Nomad and 2 palettes from Sigma and 2 palettes from Odin's Eye. But this palette is beautiful, and I knew as soon as I tried the Ambiance palette, I wanted to pick up this one because I was just so blown away by that formula. And these metallics are just so, look at that. Are you kidding me? Look at how stunning that is. And then, I don't want to swatch the same shades again, but they really are just so wet looking, but they worked better for me, unlike the Adept ones. Like, these had that wet, shimmery, metallic formula, but they stuck a lot better to my lid. And honestly, they really did not transfer half as much as the ones from Adept. And also, the mattes work a lot better for me from Sigma than the Adept mattes do. Like, these are way easier to work with. So, love this palette. Love the formula. I really cannot stress how good this formula is for beginners. And if you were eyeing the Naked palettes, I've recommended these so many times over the Urban Decay Naked palettes. I think the Sigma palettes are such a great neutral, basic, everyday palette for everyday neutral lovers to really enjoy. So I'm going to keep on recommending them because I think they're an amazing formula. Whoops. And they're an amazing brand, and I really do love their products. So really love that palette. And then the next palette is the Game Beauty Victory palette. I finally was able to go into this palette a little bit more this month, and I really am blown away by how good this formula is, you guys. It's such an easy formula to work with, and the mattes in here are so ridiculously buttery, smooth, and soft, and they just blend so easily, and they're so pigmented, but they're also so soft and easy to blend on the eyes. And the shimmers are super sparkly and again have that wet metallic formula, but these barely transfer on me. The blue is a little bit sheer, but when you build it up, it really is beautiful. And the golds I absolutely love. I think this is actually the only shade that I haven't back into again. I did finally use this shade Loot on my eyes, and then I went back into this shade. And this shade again, I can't believe this is the only shade I haven't used again because usually I'm a sucker for golds. But the day I was going to use this one, I decided to use this one instead. And I'm wearing this palette in one of my upcoming videos of my last, if I didn't have, would I get these palettes if they were coming out now? Like, I'm continuing that series, so that should be up soon. But seriously, the formula is just so good in here, and the shimmers are so gorgeous, and the mattes are just amazingly easy to blend. And I also love the brush that I got from them as well, and I love using this brush with this palette. They really do work hand in hand beautifully, and this crease brush is so soft and smooth, and it's just really, they're just a really amazing brand. And did you guys see the new launch from them, from the Persona 5 collection? That collection looks so awesome. I'm not a Persona 5 player. Honestly, I don't really play video games anymore, but I did play video games growing up. I played a lot of different video games. It's just like I've never actually owned my own game console. I would always have to like play my brother's PlayStation in order to play games, but I always was intrigued on trying a palette from this brand, and I didn't think I was going to go back into this palette really because I was like, oh, well, I don't know how much use I'm going to get out of this, so I kind of ranked it a bit lower in my rankings. But since I went back to it, I really do love my eyeshadow every single time I use this palette, and this one's the shade Gold. I just wanted to swatch at least one of the shades for you guys. They're just so good. There's not one dud in this palette. They're just all amazing to work with, and I really am so excited to see what they come out with next. I really do think indie brands started off really strong this year with the Persona 5 release from Game Beauty, Nomad's new Verona palette, and Blend Bunny's Lure palette. Like, I think indie brands are just gonna kick ass this year. I think that they already kicked ass last year, but I think they're gonna even blow us away more this year. But this palette is wonderful, so I love it. I kind of want a couple of the Persona 5 blushes, or at least one of the blushes and maybe one of the lipsticks, because even though I don't play the game, I'm not really interested in the eyeshadow palette. I need to fix my eyeshadow off camera before we continue this video. It's like kind of fading a little bit. Hold on. Okay, so I think that looks better than before, so let's move on. So then the next palette is the last palette that I tried from ColourPop back in November. I did actually pick up another palette from ColourPop like last week. That came last week, and I've been testing out that palette, but that was the first palette that I got since this one, and that is the Not a Box of Chocolates palette. I did get to jump back into this palette a few times this month, and this was probably my most used palette of January, besides the Natasha Denona My Dream palette and the Blend Bunny All Done Up palette, which I'm going to mention in a minute because I love both of those palettes too. But I'm not going to go too much into detail about this palette because I've mentioned it so many times. I mentioned it in my most used palettes of 2023. I ranked it pretty, not too high, but it was in my top 15 palettes of 2022. It's a beautiful palette. I just wish that this shade was like a matte white, and I kind of wish that the matte shades are a bit powdery, so there is some kick up, but honestly, there's no fallout on the eyes when you use these. So just because an eyeshadow has kick up doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have fallout. So that's just a very common misconception, but 99% of the time that doesn't happen for me, especially with ColourPop. But this palette is beautiful. It really was what I was going for in 2023 for my go-to neutral looks lately. They've been very cool tone and a lot more dramatic rather than just very, very natural makeup. I've been loving like darker creases with like these two colors, and then like these deep dark cooler tone browns on the bottom. I've been loving like that smoky brown look, and then popping one of these gorgeous shimmers on the lid. It's really beautiful. So this really was my go-to palette for that, and I do have another get ready with me up with this palette with using a full face of affordable products, and this is the eyeshadow palette I use in that video. If you guys want to see more looks with it, you can go check out that video. But I really love this palette, and a lot of people seemed to respond to this palette in 2022, and it ended up being a lot of people's favorite ColourPop palette because it's a really, really good palette. I mean, again, it is a neutral palette, but at the same time, like, I think they made this more versatile because, again, I think it works for a lot of different skin tones, and I think that's why people respond to this so well, because it's a beautiful palette. So really, really love that one as well. And then, like I said, the next one is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics All Done Up palette. I really could not wait to jump back into this palette again in January. It was like a week that I wasn't able to use it, and then I used it again, and then I used it a couple of times. And I think I definitely used this shade, and I think I used this shade again. I did do a get ready with me with using this one, and then I also did a get ready with me using this one. I've done a couple get ready with me's with this palette, almost using all the shimmer shades. Like, I did a green look with this row like last month, and I think I actually put that up in December. And then I did a get ready with me with this one and a get ready with me with this one, and I used this one in my first impressions videos just because I love this palette so much. This is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. I think that they just did a killer job. I'm going to hold it like this because it's a little bit easier than folding it back. I think they did a killer job with this color story. I mean, I think that she's a color story genius. I think that she really knows what people would want in an eyeshadow palette, and I think that she's made her palettes where you don't have to go into any other palette. This is like your one-stop shop holy grail eyeshadow palette, and I really do love that. I really don't see the need to reach into anything else when I use this palette. The shimmers are so insanely sparkly on the lids. I compared these to how good I compared these to being just as good as my Oden's Eye shimmers. Like, they're so ridiculously metallic and glittery, and they are so pigmented, and they look so freaking stunning on the eyes. They do transfer, but honestly, they are so worth it because they're just so ridiculously sparkly that I don't even care if they transfer because they're so gorgeous, and I just stare at my lid. Even if it has transferred, I'm like, it still looks so freaking stunning. And then the mattes are just so easy to work with. They're so ridiculously blendable and smooth. I think they're just killing it. And I think that she really made this palette where this wasn't just a Christmas palette, even though this was her holiday release. I have been wanting to go back into this time and time again after Christmas, and I think that that's exactly how she designed it, is that it's not just a Christmas palette. You can use this palette for any time, and I think it's wonderful. I love it. The only thing that I wish that would have been in here is that I kind of feel like this shade Doe-Eyed and this shade Goddess end up being very similar. When you swatch them, there's like not really too much differentiation. Like, they both end up looking like a dark brown, but they really do deepen up your look beautifully. So like, honestly, if I use one or the other, it doesn't really matter. But I'm just saying, like, I kind of wish there would have been one more like reddish tone kind of matte in here. Like, maybe she could have replaced this Doe-Eyed shade or this Goddess shade with like a reddish matte, but I know that it goes row by row, so it literally makes your looks so easy to lay out if you have trouble like deciding like what colors to start with. Blend Bunny makes it so easy where you just go down the row and there's your look. But that's just me being picky. It's an absolutely gorgeous palette. The mattes are insanely easy to blend and the shimmers are so gorgeous. And again, I think that she has a ridiculously easy, beginner-friendly formula that I think anyone can use her formula. There's no magic tricks to her formula. The same thing with Nomad and Sigma. I mean, some people say Nomad shimmers are a bit harder to work with, but honestly, I have no problems working with Nomad's formula. I think they're all killer, easy, beginner-friendly formulas. So, love this palette. Can't rave about it enough. Okay, so then the next palette is my most recent new palette to me right at the tail end of December. I got this with my Christmas gift cards to Sephora that I got for Christmas. One of my coworkers gave me a gift card, and then my brother gave me a gift card. So I used both of those to put towards buying this palette. And I got the Natasha Denona My Dream palette. This is gorgeous. This is probably my favorite palette that I have tried from her since my gold palette. And I do have two other of the midi palettes, which is the Sunrise and the Retro, but this one is my favorite out of the three. I mean, I've used those two a ton, but I really, like I said, I've been really into the deep and dramatic neutral eye looks lately, and honestly, this gives me that sultry, dramatic eye look that I've been loving lately, and the mattes in here are so easy to work with, and they're so pigmented, but they're so ridiculously smooth and buttery. And the shimmers in here are all absolutely stunning. And the reason why I like these ones a little bit more is because even like the more sheer toppery shades are so pigmented and sparkly on your lid. They're not like just a sheer topper. Like some of the shades in the Retro palette are kind of that sheer topper formula, but none of these are. You could still wear one of the sheer ones on their own, and it sparkles so gorgeously on the eyes. I love the cream to powder ones in here. I love this purple, like burgundy color, and berry color, and I love this deep dark purple cream to powder. I love the deeper mattes in here. This brown and this black are amazing. And the shimmers. I mean, of course, most people are going to pick up this palette for this multi-chrome shade, which is called Vision, but it is so freaking stunning on the lid. It is such a beautiful formula, and it's so smooth and metallic, and it's so gorgeous on the eyes. Oh, look at that. Isn't that so stunning? And it shifts from like green to purple to like kind of a pink in person, and it's so gorgeous. I also really love all the shades in this palette. There's not one dud in here. I mean, Natasha Denona is known for her eyeshadows for good reason. Look at that next to the Blend Bunny. They're both so stunning. That one is called Invention. Oh, it's so gorgeous and sparkly. And then I'll swatch a couple of the mattes. I'll do one of the cream to powders. And I'll do the dark brown. Because look how pigmented those are. And they're just, again, so easy to work with. I love her formula. They're just so good. So out of the three palettes that I was considering buying, I asked my group chat from YouTube on which one I should get. I was torn between the Makeup by Mario new palette, this one, and the Patrick Ta palette, and they all said this one. Even though I was like, I've never tried Patrick Ta or Makeup by Mario's eyeshadow formula, and I have 3 Natasha Denona palettes, I'm so happy I picked up this one because it ended up being my favorite besides the gold palette. I have tried all the shimmers in here only once. I haven't been able to dip back into the palette yet because, like I said, I did want to go into some other palettes that I had, but I did test out all the shades in this before this video. And I think they're wonderful. I have no problems with this palette. I get so many compliments on my eyeshadow when I wear a Natasha Denona palette. Like, probably the most out of any, like, eye looks that I wear. Because Natasha Denona eyeshadows, there's just something about them that looks so classic, but so simply gorgeous on the eyes. And again, that's why she's so popular. But I got so many compliments when I would just wear, like, a neutral look with this palette, because they just look truly stunning on the eyes. So she know what she's doing, but this was a lot of people's favorite Natasha Denona palette last year, because they weren't really that thrilled with the retro glam palette or the pastel palette. They liked this one more because this color story was honestly the only one I was interested in, and I thought that this was the color story was the best out of the ones she released. Okay, 2 more eyeshadow palettes to talk about, and then we're just going to get into a few other products, because I don't really have any lip products to talk about because I didn't really try anything new, and I was just wearing all the same things that I usually wear, and I don't want to bore you guys to death talking about the same things. And I only have like one or two highlighters to talk about and like one blush. So the next palette is my newest palette to my collection. I'm already loving it, and I wanted to mention it in this video because I already posted a first impressions on it. You guys can go check it out. And that is the Nomad Verona Amor and I think Morte, right? Morte palette. I mean, look at this packaging and look how big it is. But look at this packaging. Isn't it so stunning? And then it opens up with the doors like this. Like, how cool is that? And also, this folds all the way back. I think it's really cool packaging. It hasn't been bothering me whatsoever. It's just a little bit annoying to hold when I talk about it. But other than that, I think they did such a killer job with this. It is such a stunning palette. I love how even like the packaging is kind of like reflective, and you could see like the burnt pink to red in the background, and then the same thing with this side. It goes from like blue to black. It's just stunning. Nomad knows how to do packaging. What I've said before in the first impressions video of this, that whoever does their packaging deserves like so much credit because they are absolutely amazing. I love how it's 2 separate color stories in one, so I think that this is absolutely worth every penny. And it's not that much more expensive than their normal palettes. It's like $47, and you get 18 shades, so I think that's an incredible value. Anyway, these mattes are really, really nice, but I actually really love the shimmers in this palette. They are so beautiful. I'm wearing one of the shimmers on my lid today. I am mostly wearing this palette combined with the next palette I'm going to talk about, and that will be all the eyeshadow palettes. But I thought it would be fun to combine this one and the Hudson Valley palette today, and I used some of the mattes from the Hudson Valley, and I love how it turned out. I used this shade on my lid, Moors. It's such a gorgeous gold, and I thought that this gold is more of like a cool tone gold, so I love that they put that with like the gray shades. I love these blues. I used Juliet yesterday. Oh my god. I didn't know that it was a duochrome. It shifts from like blue to purple, and it's so stunning. It's way prettier on the lid. It's not really going to do it justice swatching it. And this shade Tragedy was the first shade that I used in my first impressions video. Oh, they're so pretty. Look at that. The blue is not really going to shift on my lid, but on my hand, but when you put it on your lid, it shifts from blue to purple, like when you turn your head. And I didn't even know that until I put it on and I looked at it in the mirror at work. I was like, oh, it shifts from blue to purple. I was like, that's an awesome unexpected surprise. Like, it kind of shifts more in the pan. I can't really get it to shift today for some reason, but trust me, it's gorgeous. And then I actually have tested out the entire side of this palette after today because I just needed to test out this shade on my lid. There's only 2 other shades that I need to use in this because I've been testing it out quite a bit. I only have Comedy and Cupid to try because I've actually only used this side of the palette once. And what's funny is that The reason why I bought this palette was because of the pink side, because y'all know I'm still on the hunt to find the perfect pink palette for myself, because y'all know how much I love pink shadows, but I've only used this side once. But I wanted to use it more when Valentine's Day rolls around, because this was their Valentine's Day release, but I love it. I love like the love and death theme of Romeo and Juliet. I think they absolutely killed it. I do prefer this side over this side because honestly, some of the pinks just looked very similar on the eyes, but the end result was still gorgeous. And I really love the shimmers in this palette. I mean, I know some people said that they're very toppery and kind of hard pressed. I didn't have any problems applying them whatsoever. And I just use my fingers to apply shimmers. Oh, that's so pretty. I cannot wait to do a red look with this palette. I just really have been loving it, and I think it's stunning. And actually, this shade Tomb works on my brow bone, and I used that as a brow bone highlight today because it ends up being like a really light gray, and it blends right into my skin tone. So yeah, I think they killed it with this. It's gorgeous, and I cannot wait to use all the shades in it. So the last palette, like I said, is another Nomad palette, and that is the Hudson Valley palette. I really only got to dip into this once in January, but I just wanted to give it a quick shout out because I know I said before that like it really is a color story thing with this palette, but it was fun to combine this palette today to create this look. So I used Apple Cider Donut in the crease, and then I just used Farm to Table on the outer corners, and then for my crease shade, I used the Inferno shade, like the defining shade I used from the Verona palette. And then I used this shade, Leaf Peeping, on my inner corners. And then I put Apple Cider Donut all over the lower lash line. And that's my look today. And I think it turned out really pretty. But also, I really do love the mattes in here. They really are wonderful to work with. I actually prefer the mattes in here over the ones in the Verona palette. The ones in the Verona palette are a little bit more sheer. These are way more pigmented. And the shimmers in here are gorgeous. But I do think that the Verona gives me more versatility than this palette. But there's nothing wrong with the formula of this. It's just more, again, a color story thing, but every time I do wear this palette, I love my look, and I did go into it once in January, but I just wanted to mention it because I was wearing it today as well, and I do like telling you guys what my looks are, but also I really do think it's a great pairing palette with the Verona palette. So I've actually been doing that quite a bit lately. I've been combining more palettes lately. I did that for my ColourPop countdown videos. I combined the Hocus Pocus and the Hocus Pocus 2 palette in part 1, and then part 2 I combined the Harry Potter and the So Jaded. And it's been really fun to do that lately. I'm not normally the type of person that does that. I just stick to one palette because when a palette comes out, I want to see if I can get a full look out of it. I mean, that's why we get an eyeshadow palette, so we can do complete looks. It's a little bit annoying to reach into another palette, but it's been really fun doing that lately. Okay, so that is all the eyeshadow palettes. Now let's just get into some eye products. So I did declutter a bunch of my eyeliners from ColourPop because honestly, they're old. They're like a year old at this point. So I have been slowly picking up a couple of new liners from LA Girl, and these are the LA Girl Perfect Precision eyeliners, and I got 3 different shades in them. I really, really like these. They're super, super creamy pencils, and honestly, they're so easy to apply onto the waterline. The only con I would say about these is that they're not the most long-lasting. They do wear off pretty fast, but at the same time, like, I kind of like how they look when they're a little bit more faded because they look a little bit more natural, but they're so creamy. And I do prefer these over the ColourPop ones. Honestly, the ColourPop ones wouldn't really last that long either. But these aren't uncomfortable to apply. The ColourPop ones I would always find so uncomfortable to apply on my waterline. So one of the shades I have is the white shade. And I actually really love this one. I might even love it more than the one from NYX. This is a really good white liner. That one also lasts longer than these two do, especially the brown, but I've been wearing the brown the most, and that is the shade, it's just called brown. And I'm wearing this one on my waterline today, and I'm also swatching it for you guys. It's a really gorgeous, deep chocolatey brown. I really do like it. I use it a ton. And then this is the black. I've used the black quite a few times, and it's a really good black shade. I just think that these are so creamy and so easy to apply, so I really have been loving them. So I really don't talk about eyeliner favorites too often because I rarely try new ones, but I don't think I'm going to purchase any more of the ColourPop ones because I really just don't like the formula that much. Like, I think that these are way better. So I really, really like those. And then another product that I did not expect to love, but I think I like this even more than my L'Oreal. Why is there a piece of hair here? More than my L'Oreal Voluminous Primer, and that is the Essence Volume Booster Lash Primer. This is so good, you guys. I don't know why I've been purchasing the L'Oreal one for so long because L'Oreal is so freaking expensive now. Like $15 for a mascara when Essence is like $5 to like $7 maybe. $7 the max. But this was $4.99 and this is so good that I'm not purchasing the L'Oreal one anymore. Remember that like it's one of my most purchased products ever. Why is my eye bothering me? It's like tearing a little bit. I don't know what's bothering me. It like hurt for a second. So this is really, really good. I think it gives me a lot of volume to my mascaras when I apply them. And I just think it's really, really good. And I think it's even easier to work with than the L'Oreal one. And I really like the wand on this one. It's just a really, really good primer. And I'm not going to be purchasing the other one anymore because it's way too expensive. It's like $12.99. Like, who needs to spend that on a lash primer if I can get this for $5? So I'm just going to be picking up this one from now on. I just Googled on Ulta. I just searched on Ulta's app when I was at the Ulta store, what's your cheapest lash primer? And that was the first one that came up. And I was like, oh, all right, I'm buying it. Okay, so speaking of Ulta, I also picked up this product. I finally picked this up. It took me so long to remember to actually pick this up. And I ended up loving this more than the Milk Makeup Concealer. And this is the NYX Bear With Me Concealer Serum. This is a really good concealer, you guys. But this also has more coverage than I thought it was going to. You don't really need too much of it. It kind of reminds me of like a dupe of the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. But the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer definitely has more coverage. But I would say if you built this up, you could get it as pigmented and as much coverage as the MAC one gives you. So, but this is really good. I've been using this with the NYX Bear With Me tinted skin veil, and I love the combo together, and this adds more coverage to that. But this is also like very hydrating and easy to work with, and I just really like how it makes my under eyes look. It has really good coverage, and it's very lightweight, very easily blendable, but it's also pigmented, so you don't really need that much of it. And I've already used, like, as you guys can see, I've used quite a bit of it already. I've been using this almost every other day. I usually use my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind, which is the one I'm wearing today, but this one is really good too. So it's just weird that I end up loving more drugstore concealers than I do high-end ones, because usually almost every single high-end one that I try, besides the Tarte Hydro Flex one, I have returned. But I love this. This is so good. So definitely happy I finally picked that up, because I had to order this because they never have the lightest shade of anything in stock at Ulta or CVS. Just keep that in mind. If you think you can't find your shade in a concealer or a foundation, us fair skin tone girls never have the lightest shade in store. I don't know why they do that. Like, it's just weird. They also didn't have the lightest shade of this, and I'm going to talk about it in a second, but they did not have this in store. Same thing with this, which is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. It also took me a while to pick this up as well, but curiosity just got me, and I've actually never tried any of e.l.f.'s complexion products. I've only tried their concealers. I've never tried any of their like foundations or like tinted products. So I wanted to try this, and this is beautiful, you guys. I really do like this. I think I combined these two together, and I really loved both of them together. This on its own doesn't really add too much coverage, but on its own, it does add a decent amount. It is extremely dewy, though, before you set it. But once I set it, it looks so good with my concealer and my powder. And it just makes your base look so nice. I'm wearing my Tower 28 one today, which I also love. But I've worn this a few times. And I really like it for like days that I just have class. And it's just a really good lightweight product to use when I don't want to wear too much base. And it looks great with any of the concealers or powders that I use with it. I mean, truly, I only use it with my ColourPop Pretty Fresh powder because that's my favorite. But this is really, really good. And I just really was curious about how this worked. The only thing is that the shade is kind of dark, and this is the lightest shade that they have, which is fair. And I had to pick this up at Target, actually, because I don't think Ulta even had this shade available at the store. They were sold out of a couple of shades because this product has been so popular, and it sells out like all the time. But it's worth it, and it's worth the hype. It's a really, really good product. So if you're on a budget and you want something lightweight, I would suggest this. This is beautiful. And also the applicator doesn't get on too much product. You have to dip into it quite a few times, but it's not supposed to give that much coverage. It's supposed to be very lightweight, but I just dip into it more because I want a little bit more coverage. But it's a really good product. But what I was saying about the shade is that it blends into my face nicely, and I don't really notice that it's darker on my face. It's more so on my neck that it looks a little bit yellow. So I have to like take my bronzer down lower because I don't want to like not put it on my neck because then like my face doesn't match my neck. But that's the only thing, is that I wish that this was a little bit lighter. I don't know why it's so yellow based, but this is the lightest shade they have available. So yeah, just saying. Okay, couple more products. The next one is just one highlighter from Rem Beauty, and this is the Rem Beauty Interstellar Top Coat Illuminator Highlighter. I don't even know what the name of this is. Highlighter Topper Top Coat Illuminator in the shade Miss Mercury. I don't know why Rem Beauty is getting so much hate from people. I really like these highlighters, and the reason why I tried this was because of Angelica Nyquist. She raved about these, and she talked about that she really did love the shade that she got, but then she wanted to get something a little bit lighter, and this was the same shade that she talked about that she got. And I think that she had hauled it the same day that I received it in the mail. No, not received it in the mail. When I picked it up and tried it, I was watching her video as she was talking about it, so I thought that was funny. This is gorgeous on the skin. It's so pretty, and it's such a lightweight, easy formula, and it's very, like, just super smooth. I think it's really, really good. I think it's really pretty on the skin, and I've used it quite a few times. It's probably my most used highlighter in the past month, and it's really gorgeous. So I really, really like this. I really like the packaging. I might try a couple more products from her brand later down the line, but people are kind of thinking that she like doesn't really care about the brand too much, but whatever. She's Ariana. I think that her products are pretty good. From the one product I've tried, I haven't tried anything else, but I like it. Okay, and then the other highlighter is the Game Beauty highlighter in the shade Geo. The Elemental Pearl highlighter in the shade Geo. If I can open this. Again, really don't have any other highlighters to talk about. I do have one other one that I tried, but I haven't put the first impressions video of it yet up. And I've only tried it once, so I didn't want to mention it in this video. But again, this is absolutely freaking stunning on the skin. I'm wearing a different highlighter today. I'm actually wearing my Beauty Bay highlighter. and it's absolutely stunning. This one is gorgeous too. It's like a very beautiful yellow-based champagne, and it is stunning on the skin. It has such a beautiful formula. Again, I think Game Beauty kicks ass with their formulas. I cannot wait to see what else they come out with, and this is a absolutely stunning highlighter. I love it. And then the one and only blush I'm going to talk about, I don't think I've mentioned this in any videos yet. Maybe I did in November. I can't remember if I picked this up in November, but I'm just going to mention it again. I really love this box blush from Benefit in the shade Butterfly. This is a gorgeous orange blush. I've worn it a few times. I haven't worn it recently, but it's such a gorgeous pigmented orange blush. It's so pretty, and I absolutely love it. And it's like a beautiful, like shimmery orange blush. It's a really beautiful one. Okay, and there's just a couple of palettes really quick. I really wanted to mention my Blend Bunny Noctilucent palette again. I did use this a couple of times in January, and this is probably the one and only product that I went into more consistently as far as highlighters go. I used this quite a bit in January, especially when I worked. I wore this almost every time, and I only worked 7 shifts last month, so yeah, take that for what you will. But this is gorgeous, super blinding, super sparkly highlighters. So if you don't love super sparkly and blinding highlighters, you are definitely not gonna like this. I like to be seen from space and send signals to UFOs when it comes to my highlighter. But these are absolutely stunning. They have a super lightweight formula, and they build up to be absolutely stunning, glittery highlighters. And they're gorgeous. I don't know why I'm blanking on what I have to say, but they are beautiful. That you can almost use them as a eyeshadow if you really wanted to. I'm not the type of person that does that because I like using things where they're marketed to use, but you can do whatever you want, obviously. But those are stunning. Look at those. Aren't they so wet looking? Oh, they're so freaking gorgeous. So, had to mention that. Cannot wait to see what other cheek products she comes out with this year, because we all know she has amazing eyeshadows and lipsticks, and actually, I should mention the lipstick that I tried from Blend Bunny. I might whip that out in a minute. But this is amazing. I absolutely love it. And then the blush palette that I've went to consistently the past couple of months, I forgot to mention this in my Best in Beauty, but I'll just mention it now. I mean, this is an old favorite, and I absolutely love this palette. And that is the Jouer Rose Cut Gems palette. I don't know why this palette got so underhyped and people didn't really like it that much. This is still my favorite product I've ever tried from Jouer. I absolutely love the blushes in here. I use these 3 blushes a lot. I love this nude shade called Crystalline, this peach shade called Peach Quartz, and this pink Tease Me. Like, when I don't know what blush I want to use, I'll just grab this one, and it has every shade I could possibly want. And they're just so good. I use this side of the palette a lot. I've also used this one and this one recently. This one I use more in the summertime, obviously, but it's just such a good palette, and I love it. So I might even take this one traveling with me to California, but I don't know how it's gonna transport on a plane with that packaging, but we'll see. All right, now let's just jump into 2 lip favorites. The first one is actually a lip mask that I picked up recently from ColourPop because I just ran out. These last a long time, so I finally ran out of my Powerpuff Girls one that I got in summer of 2021. It took me almost a year to use it up because I didn't start really consistently using it until like the end of September, because I think I was using up another lip mask then. But it took me like a year to use it up, and I use it every single night, so they are worth it. So the newest one that I got was the watermelon one, and oh my god, this one I love even more. It's more hydrating than the Powerpuff Girls one, but I also love the scent, and it just feels so amazing on the lips. And it smells so good. Smells like a watermelon lip smacker. Like, I love it. Oh my God, I could smell it all day, but it's just so nice and nourishing on the lips. I absolutely love it. Okay, so one more product. I have the Blend Bunny Matte Lip Cream in the shade Doll Face. I just wanted to mention this because I did use this, I think, twice last month. And it's a really beautiful lip formula. Honestly, I kind of want to get another shade of these because they are so comfortable on the lips, last forever. I don't know how they did this formula, but it's literally amazing and I love it, and you really don't need to reapply it too much at all. It stays on beautifully. It doesn't flake. It's not dry. It feels amazing on the lips. And I absolutely love this color. So, again, Blend Bunny be blowing everybody away. And then the other one is the Sigma lipstick in the shade Awaken. I mean, I've been using these quite a bit last month, but I think this is the one I used a couple of times, and this is a really pretty pink shade. I like this formula. I'm not obsessed with it because it is a little bit more drying than the Blend Bunny one, but it's a good one and it does last a long time. So and the shades are just so pretty. I really love that pink. And then the last product is a skincare product, and I recently tried this. I got this. I can't remember if I hauled this already, but this was the most recent new product that I tried from Ole Hendrickson, and this is the Banana Bright Vitamin C Serum. This is so freaking good, you guys. I think that this is the one I'm going to be repurchasing, but I'm so glad I got a full-size version of it in the holiday set that he had, and this is so amazing. I think that this is way better than the Inky List Vitamin C one. I mean, there's certain products from Inky List that I really like, and certain products from Ole Hendrickson that I like, but they're the two brands that I go back to the most when it comes to skincare. And this one is amazing, and it's so smooth and hydrating on the face, and I really, really love it. So yeah, that's it, you guys, and it really has been helping my skin quite a bit. I wanted to mention Kat Von D's Lolita liquid lipstick because I recently picked that up from Marshall's. I mean, that is an old favorite, so I don't really have to mention it again because it's not like you can really get it anymore. I mean, I think they re-released it in the new line, but I've been rambling for so long. Like, this video was so much longer than I thought it was going to be because I was like, I don't have that many products, and I talk for, like, forever. But, I did wear that quite a bit in January, and I was wearing it as, like, one of my go-to lippies, especially with the Nomad Whistler Snow Lodge palette, but I can't find it right now. I can only find Lolita, which I also picked up recently, but I haven't worn that one. I don't think at all yet because the Blend Bunny color is so much similar to the Lolita shade that I used the Blend Bunny one over the Lolita shade. So yeah, that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at CBW819 and check out my Poshmark at the same handle. Let me know what your favorites were this month, and let me know if you tried any of these products. I would love to know your thoughts, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!